welcome to the C-Suite, Puyallup Sumner Chamber of Commerce. I am Tara Doyle, the president and CEO here. I am really excited about this C-Suite podcast series. We are working our way through our fantastic community and learning the incredible journeys of all of the generous people that are making up our business community here in the chamber. Today, we have someone who is the epitome of grace, who is generous. She is an ambassador to our chamber. She is smart as a whip as a financial advisor for Edward Jones. Like I said, bring it back again because she is full of grace, as her name is Grace Cambra. Grace Cambra, come on to the C-Suite.
Are you having any fun?
Are you having any fun? I like this. I love these theme songs. They're so fun. I have a feeling fun is a theme for you.
It is. That's kind of the goal, right?
The goal should be fun. Life is short, right? All right. Well, cheers and welcome to the C-Suite.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
This is fun. I love, I get to meet a lot of people in our chamber community. We, chit-chat at wake-ups. Maybe I get, to understand them a little bit better at, some other events where wine is involved and divulging is involved. You and I have shared wine at Brown Winery. But this really is intentionally trying to, unpack your story, learn more about your journey. You're definitely a face of the chamber. We so appreciate all that you graciously do as an ambassador. You wear that ambassador hat very well.
I love it. I love the chamber. I sing its praises everywhere, and I love being an ambassador and being a part of it. So thank you.
Well, you're very authentic at it.
Thanks.
So how long have you been with Edward Jones?
So I joined Edward Jones February of 2022, transitioned my business over, and it's been quite the year, a little plus now.
Good. Okay. And so I always like to kind of start at the very beginning.
Yeah.
Little precious Grace, where did you grow up? Do you have siblings? What kind of little Grace were you?
Yeah. So I was born in LA. Parents separated, came to Washington when I was 5. It's kind of part of my story, but I have 3 siblings, so 2 sisters, a brother, all very fabulous people. I find myself very lucky in that way. I work with a lot of families, and gosh, I've got great siblings. So.
Oh, love it. And so growing up, what kinds of, were you involved in activities? Were you shy? Were you outgoing?
Yeah,
What kind of?
No, I think I was always a lot of kind of what I am now. It's funny.
Okay.
I recently found a letter that I wrote to myself when I must have been 17, 18, right coming out of high school. And reading it from the perspective now, it made me realize I really knew who I was as a person.
Wow.
Even then, which I think is rare, right?
It's very rare to be that introspective and understand, you as a human being. Wow.
Yeah.
What kinds of things did you say to yourself?
I was going to be a business owner, right?
Okay.
This is super weird. So I was in the letter, I was building a house on Lake Tapps, and I found it while I was moving.
Oh my
And
goodness.
I'm building a house on Lake Tapps. Right?
Well, is that manifestation, or are you just, forecasting future? Oh, I love it.
Yeah. It was really interesting to see it and realize, how, even then, I knew I was going to school. I knew I was going to be a business owner. I was already kind of very, I think, future-minded,
Right.
even at that age, and I think that really is what carried into my career.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, and always have loved people. I'm a people person. I was then, am now, so.
Yeah. What was your first job?
I was a dishwasher. Yeah. Most people know it going up 410, right? There was, it used to be the winery.
Okay.
Now it's been 55 different restaurants.
Okay.
I don't really even know what it's called now, but
Yeah.
I washed dishes there as my first job.
Okay.
Yeah, and spent quite a bit of time in hospitality through college. And
Well, that makes sense. That's some pretty key customer service that you're learning, serving the
Right.
public, right?
yeah, and they're just, being able to interact with people and, when you're out at a bar or at a restaurant, or you're having fun. And so I think I really just kind of gravitated towards those environments while I was getting myself through school.
Right. And so first job, dishwasher, what did you want to be for your first job? I know you knew, letter to yourself said a business owner, but is there
Yeah.
a particular field you knew?
Interesting. Yeah. When I was young, I've always been very good at math. I actually thought I was going to be an engineer coming out of high school. I joined the Army very young. I was... Yeah.
Tell it. Wait, we're not going to skip over that.
I know.
What? Why? I love it.
Yeah.
But I'm interested in what drew you to serving.
Yeah. I have always wanted to be one of those women that was a little bit different, right? Always very independent, always very self-sufficient. I always had that kind of mindset of, if it can be done, I'm going to be a person that can do it.
Awesome.
And there was two pieces really when I wanted to go to school, and I knew that I had to find a way to get there, right? So there's that component. And then two, I liked the idea of the challenge, right? It was just something that was different than what a lot of other
physical, mental,
girls or women were doing.
Yeah, environment.
Right? Yeah. And a friend of mine came to school and she said, I'm going into the Army. And I said, you know what? I think I'm going to do that too. And I went down. I was 16 at the time, and I couldn't even sign up. They told me I had to come back when I turned 17.
Yeah.
And I turned 17 in April. I signed the paperwork in May, and I went to basic training in June.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what was that like for you?
It was very, very eye-opening.
Sure.
There's really two huge takeaways from it. Is when I went, in high school, your world is so small.
Sure.
Right? And I went to basic training, people from all over the country, and I realized that if I wanted anything in life and I wanted to be good at things, that there were so many people in the same place as me wanting the same thing,
Sure.
and that I was really going to have to do the work. Right? So that was it made me realize how
impactful. That's great.
Yeah. And then the other thing is, it's hard, right? You show up, you have no personal time, you're under constant stress.
Discipline and
hierarchy,
leadership.
limited sleep. I mean, they're purposely putting you under stress to teach you how to operate in that environment.
Sure.
And I realized that I was a very strong person.
Good.
I was watching people around me struggle, and I was realizing that, I'm actually stronger than I realized. I'm actually flourishing in this environment where other people are struggling.
Oh, what a great thing to do for yourself and have that experience. How long were you in the military, and again, what was overall that experience like? Were you deployed? Were you, what was your role in the military?
Yeah, so I was actually, I joined the Army Reserve.
Okay.
And that's how I was able to do the dual school.
School and okay.
Military, yeah. I served for 20 years, so I actually...
So you were 3? I thought you said you were 17.
Yeah, 17, so yeah, don't do too much math here. But I got, actually last year was my 20-year mark. Yeah.
Fantastic.
And I went in as, they were called chemical specialists then, so I thought I was going to be a chemical engineer coming out of college. And I thought that was really well aligned, and so I did all the training, and I was a chemical specialist in the Army, and then I went to school to be a chemical engineer, and about 3 years in, I realized I really hated working in basement labs.
Sure, and that's Ivy for you, the stepdaughter,
Yeah,
chemical
it's
engineer.
Bottom
of ships.
People were graduating, and there's I don't really want to work at a water treatment facility plant. Right?
No, it's not glamorous. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I mean,
I need light.
It's great work.
Oh,
but
yes.
if you are sensitive to your work environment, I found that really challenging, right?
I get that.
So I was a chemical, they changed our name during the time. So chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear specialist was my final title.
Okay.
Pretty much hazardous material work for the military.
Great.
Did that for 12 years. And then I switched to being a career counselor. Okay. Which was one of the things that actually made me switch from the corporate side of investing to the personal side and the individual side of investing. In that role, I got to talk to young soldiers about, why did they join the military? Where did they ultimately want to be? So it wasn't only me finding my path, but it was my opportunity to help other people find their path. Yeah. People who are really working for it. I could see,
that matchmaking going on in your brain and getting excited about that.
Yeah. So talking to them about retirement benefits, kind of all the components that lead you to be an advisor. And I just realized, well, maybe this is actually what I want to do for my job, right? And so again, the military was kind of the launching point for the next step in my life.
So where did you end up going to school?
I ended up graduating from UW-Tacoma.
Okay.
Yeah, and I actually have a master's from there too. So I went back and did my master's in finance.
Yeah,
always kind of on.
So at some point you knew you were going back. Okay. Yeah. Finance was what you're targeting, and I know you had a stint before Edward Jones. Were you other places prior to that too, or I'm not?
Yeah, so I've been in the finance industry for 14 years,
Okay.
right? And I did 10 years on what I call like the institutional side, running big retirement plans. I did some consulting work before I made that transition over to the personal side. And I think that was me combining my two loves, right? Finance and people.
Yeah.
And really finding my purpose in the world. So I was at Russell Investments. I left there and I went to an independent firm first. So I was an advisor there for 2.5 years, and then made the transition to Edward Jones and started my own business last year.
And so now more independent, not necessarily somebody over you, kind of like having your own business, obviously within the Edward Jones umbrella.
Yeah.
So when we talk a lot with guests, I'm always curious about people that were of influence or made impressions on you, good and bad leaders. So whether, again, military environment or at one of your previous jobs, can you give us an example of maybe a boss that challenged you not in a great way, or and then also maybe someone who challenged you in a really great way?
Yeah, without maybe...
We don't have to mention names. We just are interested in how people learn from these experiences.
Yeah.
And
I guess let's start with the good,
'Kay.
right? Very young in my career, I had a certain sergeant who, again, it was one of those moments where the situation asked more of me than I actually thought I was capable of, right? And that's kind of was a constant trend in my military
theme and
career.
trend.
Yeah. And it actually took another female sergeant to say, like, you might want to be a sergeant, right? It hadn't even occurred to me that I could at some point be where she was until she told me, right? You would be good at this.
Right.
And so I think her taking the time to not only do her job well in her position, but taking the time to recognize me and help me develop, right? When maybe it wasn't even clear in my own eyes. Definitely very influential. One of those things I always remember and I think try to do for other people. Right. So that would be the positive.
Yes.
Negative. Finance is a male-dominated industry, right? I have run into my fair share of consciously or unconsciously people who maybe felt different about me in my work because I was a woman, right? And kind of breaking through some of that and finding my path regardless of that.
Good for you.
I'm gonna leave it there.
Yeah, well, I like that. No, fortitude and just staying straight on mission, holding your head high.
Yeah.
Good for you.
And being I think removing that and just knowing that if I keep doing what I'm supposed to do and knowing that I am capable, that it proves out eventually, right? Regardless of what other people's opinions are.
Yeah. How about your leadership? Have you been in many roles where you're imparting that wisdom on others, or again, being kind of independent? I don't know how much that affords you that opportunity other than working with your clients, which you are very much a leader to them.
Yeah, definitely a leadership component there, where I would say they're looking for you for vision and guidance, right? And there's a lot of trust involved with that, right? And so communicating in a way that they feel comfortable. And I think it sounds a little silly, but the greatest compliment, I don't know if compliment's the word, but when a client just trusts me enough that they're not even looking or questioning, they just trust that when I hit that level with a client, I'm like, okay, we have arrived in this relationship, right? Like they know that I have their best interests in heart, that I'm doing my job well, and they just know that they can trust me to make those decisions. That always makes me feel like, it makes me feel good about the work that I'm doing with them, right? That I'm allowing them that peace of mind and just taking that off their plate. So, but I did spend quite a bit of time in leadership roles in the military. In my current position, it's interesting because, I'm an advisor. I do have one FTE that supports me in the office.
Sure.
She's very senior. So I've kind of said this before when people are like, oh, well, like, what does your team look like? And I'm like, some days I don't know if I'm leading or if she's leading me, right?
Yeah.
But I really like that, right? At every level, that collaborative
Absolutely.
kind of work environment, I always want, regardless of position, everyone to be able to speak their minds and, have their ideas heard and feel comfortable being able to do that.
And I imagine you have gaps. She has gaps. Hopefully you're filling the gaps for one another so that as a team you're elevating the business. And
that's, I think, allowing her to lead sometimes, right? I think that does make me better and us as a team better. And I'm just like, okay,
You are one sharp cookie.
Well, I try.
I love it.
Team dynamics are hard, right? They're
Absolutely. Absolutely. If you weren't doing this, is there any kind of wild dream out there of something else that you might have been?
What's funny is I did some branding work recently with, it came out of the Lunch and Learn.
Oh,
right?
good.
So,
Michaela and Steph. Oh, wonderful.
And we were talking about brand and how you can develop a brand that would allow space if you wanted to branch out into other things. And it popped out of my mouth before I even really thought about it. But I said, I don't need room in my brand, because like helping people with their finances is my reason for being on this earth. Like that is my purpose, right, in my work. And
I love it.
I really feel like I'm where I'm supposed to be. So maybe I'd just be a mom. I don't know. I tried that for a while. It wasn't really my thing either. Sometimes I think, well, maybe I could just go back and try that again. But no, I love my work.
Well, I think it sounds like you're building, and maybe there's some, like furthering your investments. There's obviously a lot of facets to what you're doing. And so quite fortunate that you have found, that very authentic space and place you're supposed to be in, and without any yearning for other, because you just get to dive in and make it better and enrich it. And you are obviously helping so many people along the way. So what a great thing.
Yeah, thanks.
Let's see. How about a personal and professional hack?
Oh, okay. My personal hack is, so I love heels, right? And most women in business, right? Heels are a thing.
Yeah, I got my tennis shoes on today,
Okay, so that's where I'm going. Okay. Your emergency sneakers. You have to have your emergency sneakers in your trunk, right? Yes,
that's a great hack.
I actually got caught one time in an ice storm that we had. No sneakers in the trunk. This is my learning lesson. And I couldn't even get out of my car, right? Because it was so icy, like you can't stand on high heels. So sneakers in the trunk, they have saved me so many times. So that's my personal.
I like it.
My professional hack, and I don't really know if this is a hack, but it's something I try to live by. In finance, you're telling people sometimes hard things, right? As a business owner, you're telling people hard things. As a mom, I tell teenagers things they think are hard things.
Yes.
But I try to always communicate with honesty and empathy. So that's kind of like my motto, right? And I really believe that you can get through a lot of hard things with communication that's honest and empathetic to the other person's perspective.
I love it. We just did a little blue scarf evening where being, confronting or challenging and supporting needed to be equal.
Oh,
And so a different way to say it, but I think that, both are so important. To just a true moving the needle on the efficiency of the communication. Right. Where are you really trying to go with this?
Yeah.
You are.
There are things that if they're not said, right, can be almost as damaging.
Absolutely.
Right. So, and then that empathetic part is just recognizing that it might be hard for the other person. So. Yeah.
What do you like to do for fun?
Oh gosh. Well, I have kids, right?
Yes.
So my partner and I, we have 3.
Tell us about.
13, 14, and 10. So
wow.
2 boys, 13, 14, and then a girl, 10. So that is fun and busy.
Yes, it is.
So we ski in the winter, which is great, and then we are out on the boat a lot in the summer. That's kind of our jam, right? If I can get home in time to do a boat ride in the evening, it was a good day.
It's a happy, soulful day. I get that. Oh,
yeah,
gosh.
and we just put it in the water last weekend. We had the first kind of super warm weekend, and we were out there. So
nice.
Yeah.
Well, because you're an ambassador, I guess I can ask this question just to, if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit about what your experience has been in the chamber, and you kind of get to see it through a different lens, maybe a more intimate lens as to how our team functions and what you see, us pushing out in mission and vision. So is there anything I guess,
Yeah.
that you would share about your experience.
Yeah, so I sing the praises of the chamber. I started at the beginning of the podcast. You didn't even wait for the question. I just put it out there.
Rewind.
No, but when I first came to the chamber, I had almost, hi Gretel, no experience networking. I didn't really know, but I showed up and I just thought, the energy here is what I want, right? It was just a feeling. And I only was in the chamber for a very long time because I just struggled when I would go into other groups. I'm like, it's not the same energy. It's not the same feeling. And so I think that is at the beginning, the energy was what attracted me.
Great.
But at the beginning of kind of trying to figure out, like, how do I be an advisor, right? Work outside the corporate room, build my own business. I would come to the chamber with a lot of questions in my head, and I realized I was in an environment where no matter what I was working on, there was somebody else that he'd either done it or was also doing it.
Right.
The
resources are plentiful.
Yeah, and so willing to share.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
Right? You asked the question, and there was some kind of resource there to really help me in the space that I was in.
Right.
And then evolve, right? Move forward a few years. Like, some of my best friends are in the chamber.
Yep.
I just love the people, and I always tell people, like, it's a get what you give kind of environment. But if you pour into this community, it just really gives back, and it's giving back to my business. It's giving back to me personally, and it's just one of my favorite groups of people, honestly.
Thank you.
So I'm like, oh,
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, again, we're blessed to have you in our community as well.
Oh, thank you.
So, final question.
Okay.
What would you say is your superhero power?
Oof. What is my superhero power?
You
I know. That's a tricky one. I'm going to say this is not good. Like, this is not great. I should be more creative. There's a reason that I am a financial advisor. Like, seriously. So I'm going to say I actually have a very, very analytical brain. But sometimes those analytical brains, even like my business partner, he's like, stop, Grace, just stop.
Yep.
But those analytical brains can be very, they're not social, they're not outgoing personality types, but I think I have kind of the mix of both.
Right.
So I have that love of people with an equal love of charts and graphs.
What are you taking to bed? Charts and graphs or people?
I mean,
yes, we know. We know.
It's a little bit of both. Check my nightstand, right?
I love it.
But yeah, and I think it makes me really good at my job.
I think so
honestly.
too. I could see that balance. Again, it kind of went back to just what you said earlier when we were talking about, comfort and support and honesty and empathy and all of that. You are that balance. And that is something, again, that is also the epitome of grace to me, is really elevating yourself, but holding, also keeping yourself grounded. And so that is you to me.
Oh, well, thank you. I love that. That's I'm going to tuck that one away and
tuck it away.
Yeah.
Tuck it away. All right. Well, hey, this wraps up another C-Suite podcast. We have such great people in our chamber. This is just giving you a little glimpse of chamber life. If you'd like to be on one of these podcasts, we would sure love to hear your story and journey as well. So reach out to me on that. How do we get a hold of you, Grace?
I have a website, so you can go to my Edward Jones website, or my office number is 253-289-6797. If you have questions about your financial situation, would love to have a chat with you.
Great. Awesome. Well, thank you again. We appreciate it.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for having me. This is really fun. I was real nervous, but this is great.
You're great. Just yourself as always. All right. Well, thanks again. We'll see you next time.